It is Phil Steele Friday here on ITG. We're going to get Phil Steele in the building to talk some of the biggest matchups in college football this weekend, get his thoughts on last week's win over Pitt in the backyard brawl, and to get a hunch about where he's leaning in this matchup against the Kansas Jayhawks in the Big 12 opener.
You are now watching Believe.
ITG.
With special guest, Phil Steele.
Author of the College Football Bible.
He can see things before they happen. It's a Jedi trait.
All you gotta do is bet on the winner and you'll never lose.
Mountaineer Nation.
You are In the Gun.
Hey, a real pleasure being on. Thanks for having me on the In the Gun podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into another episode of ITG. I'm Schuyler Callihan. That is the signal caller, Jed Drenning. You know what time it is of the week. It is Phil Steele Friday. Get inside the brain of the best in the business, and we're going to talk to him here in just a few moments. But first, a word from our sponsors.
If you haven't already, please make sure you're subscribed on YouTube to In the Gun and to ITG Clips. That's the best way to catch all our newest Mountaineer content hot off the press. And how about a quick shout out to J.R. Toothman and our friends at Toothman Ford? We all know that cars cost less in Grafton. Plus, let's give some love to Fortis and our good buddy Rick Lewis. For roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed, be sure to visit fortis.us.com. And a tip of the cap to Tim Johnston and his awesome crew at Johnston Equipment off I-79, exit 99 between Weston and Buchanan. And finally, the Book Exchange. For a limited time, when shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter promo code INTHEGUN20, that's 20, for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
And yes, make sure that you use the In the Gun 20 promo code. Also, if you're in the brick and mortar store, either in downtown or in Pattison, you'll still get that 20% discount. And I was sure to use it last week, Jed. It came in handy. I probably could have bought a handful of more things, but my wife was trying to get me out of there in time before I bought the whole store. But it's definitely a nice savings, and they know exactly what you're talking about. I said, "You guys doing the In the Guns?" Yep, we got it. So boom, they took it off, and they handled it perfectly. So it's a great thing that you need to use and take advantage of. So
Book Exchange is awesome, man.
yeah, they are. Yes, they are. I could have went back for a second tour if the traffic wasn't too crazy, but you know how that is. So, all right, Jay, let's go back and take a step back to last week, the backyard brawl, how we did in our prop picks. You kind of gave me a little heads up that we didn't do so hot. So how not so hot were we?
Neither one of us really lit it up out of our three props. First, we asked the simple question, who scores first?
Oh,
You picked Pitt, I picked West Virginia. I actually hit that one with the second quarter touchdown to put us up 7-0. That's the only one I got right. We said, okay, who is going to be WVU's leading rusher? We danced around it, but didn't hit it.
yeah.
You picked Sincere Bowers. I picked Clay Ash. Of course, it was Trey Edwards with a $141 on his 25 carries. So we both missed that. And here's the one you hit. First half over under. Boy, I was off on this one. We pegged it at 23.5 just to make it fun. Over under 23.5 combined points first half. It was way under. You picked under. I picked over. It was 10 combined points at 7-3 at the intermission. So that was, and you know what? The way that game unfolded, who would have seen that coming? 55 total points, and it ended up right around the Vegas over under in the mid 50s. And those people out there that actually do this stuff and gamble and actually put money on it, which I can't imagine. But just imagine putting money on that under, and at halftime, you're feeling pretty good. and then you are tightening up. You're puckering toward the end. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I feel for those people. Come on,
Yeah,
you do this
it's
for fun, not for cash. Come
I,
on, man.
I dabbled in it every now and then I learned that Vegas is pretty damn good at what they do, and there's a
Yeah.
reason why there's not too many people that get rich off that thing. So, but hey, let's be honest. I kind of thought the game was right where West Virginia wanted it to kind of be at halftime, with it being kind of a rock fight. You had Pitt kind of out of sorts offensively. You felt kind of good about where things were offensively in some ways, even though I think it was just more missed opportunities than anything. And when they went up 14-3, Jed, like I had a way too good of a feeling about the result than I probably should have. And then obviously a couple plays later, some things changed. But what a day, what a night that was on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. At 14-3, I had an uneasy comfort as well. But that was like a tale of three different games, is what it felt like.
Yeah, it
It was
really
like
was.
the first half was a much different game than the second half. We kind of wrestled free the momentum and the leverage there for a while. Pitt, of course, wrestled it back, but it ended with the good guys. So, yeah, one for the ages for sure. That's one that we always say that Phil's not perfect. Well, he wasn't perfect on that one.
No.
So I am at, which means he's due this week. So
Yeah.
what is he gonna say this week against Kansas? I know what I hope he says, but we'll see. I'm eager to find out.
Yeah, we've been eager to find out about Phil's pick on this for a while. Just, since we saw the line come out, it's a big number, like almost 2 touchdowns, depending on where you look. It's, 11, 12, 13, somewhere in that ballpark. I can't figure it out for the life of me. Maybe I'm crazy. I'm not seeing something right, but I'll have to get Phil's thoughts on that. And maybe he agrees and takes the Mountaineers this week. So hang tight on the other side. We will get the man in the building here to get his thoughts on that game, as well as every game in the Big 12, a couple of top 25 matchups to keep your eyes on as well. So hang tight. We'll be back here with Phil Steele.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
Back in the gun here at Schuyler Callihan, Jed Drenning. We are now joined by the best in the business. That is Phil Steele here on Phil Steele Friday. Phil, welcome back to the show, and give anything that you have going on over at the site out to the fine people.
Hey, I appreciate that, Schuyler. Up right now on philsteele.com. You can take the Phil Steele Plus tour. You get yourself 5 free selections, and you get yourself 6 quick hitters. Also, this week, if you take the tour, during the tour, I give away my Inside the Press Box newsletter this week, a $20 value, absolutely free. So make sure you take the tour, find the code, and then go online and get my my newsletter. You get a complete write-up on all 51 games this week, plus every FBS versus FCS game. My forecast, the computer's forecast, it's all free in the for this week in the Inside the Press Box newsletter. Just go take the Phil Steele Plus tour, get the code, and go get the newsletter for free.
Love it. Great stuff there, Phil. And let's go ahead and get started here with some top 25 action in the SEC. We've got Auburn and Oklahoma, a pair of teams that are kind of still trying to find themselves, I think. I think they're going to be much better here in a couple of weeks. Both have a significant win under their belts already. You got Jackson Arnold making his return to Norman. You have that factor into it. What do you think here about that piece of the story here, and John Mateer continuing to do his thing on the offensive side for Oklahoma?
Yeah, and last week we saw a quarterback return to the site. Duke's quarterback, Darren Mensah, returned to Tulane, and that didn't work out too well for him. They were down big at the half, 24-3 at one point, and ended up losing that game. So, yes, this would be a big game for Jackson Arnold going back to face Oklahoma, but this Oklahoma team, as you know, I have my number one surprise team in the country, and when you look at Oklahoma, the defense is outstanding. Last year, they held opponents to 115 yards per game below their season average. This year, doing even better. In fact, number one in the country, holding opponents to 300 yards per game below their season average. Offensively, huge difference. Last year, they had 0 returning starters at the offensive line. They lost their top 5 receivers due to injury. This year, they've got a dangerous receiving core. The offensive line looks good. And, of course, the addition of John Mateer at quarterback and Ben Arbuckle, the offense coordinator from Washington State. So this is a completely improved Oklahoma team. I do think Auburn's good this year, and I think Jackson Arnold's got a better supporting cast than what he had last year at Oklahoma. As I mentioned, 0 returning starters, the offensive line, banged up receiving core. But I just think Oklahoma is the stronger team, and they're at home. And I believe Michigan's a better team than Auburn, and they beat Michigan by 11. I think they could beat Auburn by the same total or more.
Phil, jumping to the Big Ten, we have a battle of top 20 teams. You have Indiana sitting there at 3-0 against lesser competition. They've been dominant, but they did do something Virginia Tech couldn't do, and that's beat Old Dominion. They play keep away. They rank toward the top of the country in time of possession. They're facing a 3-0 Illinois team. Brett Bielema's squad is going to be nasty. They're going to be tough. And all the amazing things that have happened in Indiana since the beginning of last year, perhaps maybe the most amazing is how tough it now is to suddenly play in Memorial Stadium in Bloomington. They have a slight edge at home. What do you see unfolding in this Big Ten matchup?
Great game. I think it's going to be one of the best games of the weekend to watch. Come right down to the wire. And I think the two teams are equal. You got to give a slight home edge to Indiana for being at home. I think when you look at the talent Indiana has this year, last year was a great year for them. This year, they're an even more talented squad than last year. I think they're better at running back. They've got their top receivers back. They have a star at each level on the defense, the defensive line, linebacker, and DB. They've got Mikael Kamara back on the defensive end, Aiden Fisher at linebacker, D'Angelo Pounds at the CB. So this is a very dangerous team. But Illinois finished with 10 wins last year, and we're a top 15 team, and they're probably 7 points better than they were last year. Almost everybody's back, including Luke Altmaier at quarterback. They got Fegan and Lowry at running back, and then Valentine's really emerging there as well. Defensively, they're stout. I don't like the way they got pushed around the first half by Duke, but they really came back and dominated the second half. I think it's going to be the best game of the weekend probably to watch, and that's what I'm going to do in this one. I give a slight lean to Indiana, but that's where the spread is, so a fun one to watch. Probably not a good one to wager on because I wouldn't go against either of these two teams. It's basically a playoff elimination game. Winner stays in the playoff mix, loser probably out of it.
Yeah, Phil, it is weird to kind of see these two teams have a number next to their name in a game that's not involving a basketball. So this is definitely new territory.
You know when the last time these two met when they were both ranked?
Oh, gosh. Have they ever?
1950. Now, I wasn't around back then, but that was quite some time ago.
Wow. Well, I have a nice little nugget there. So let's hop over into the Big 12. This one's tomorrow night, Oklahoma State in Tulsa, kicking off at 7:30. Obviously, the Cowboys have had a couple of weeks to stew on that big 69-3 loss to Oregon. Phil, I don't know that Oklahoma State's in danger of losing this game, but it feels like this has to be a game where Mike Gundy and company find answers and win a game going away. It feels like that program really needs it right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think most times Oklahoma State plays Tulsa, it's like, we're just playing Tulsa. they're supposed to be our state rival, but they're not really, and they sort of go through the motions. This is an absolute must-win game for Oklahoma State. And I still think it's going to be a real tough year for Oklahoma State this year. You look at that schedule they have. I don't have a favorite in very many Big 12 games this year. So unlike most years where you might look past Tulsa, they're not looking past Tulsa. And when you look at Tulsa, I do like the way they're playing. Although, it's interesting. Kirk Francis began the year as starter for him, but Baylor Hayes has taken over. He comes over from the same school that their head coach did, and Trey Lamb, which gave him a slight advantage. He took over in the second half against New Mexico State and is the starting quarterback now. I think Tulsa's playing good, but they're going to get Oklahoma State's A game here, and I like the Cowboys to win this one by over 2 touchdowns.
Well, SMU taking the short trip to Amon G. Carter Stadium to face their old coach and Sonny Dykes. Battle of two really good quarterbacks, and Jennings and Hoover, obviously. SMU, tough loss to Baylor a couple weeks ago, recovered against lesser competition last week to get that taste out of their mouths. What do you see playing out here at Amon G. Carter Stadium with TCU as a slight favorite?
Yeah, TCU's a touchdown favorite in the game. And, you look at last year's score, SMU won that game 66-42, but that really doesn't capture how that game was played. TCU actually outgained them by 105 yards. They were -4 in turnovers. I think SMU had 3 defensive special teams touchdowns in the game, and that really was the key factor. So far this year, I've been more impressed with TCU. I do think they're a legitimate contender in the Big 12 this year. The reason I didn't pick them higher was the schedule. They have to play Arizona State, Kansas State, BYU, Houston, West Virginia, all on the road. But I do think these two teams are very close talent-wise. I'm going to lean with the underdog here in SMU. You pointed out the fact that SMU actually led Baylor by 14 points in the fourth quarter. That's a really good Baylor team. So I think they can hang with TCU. Should be a really good game, but I'll take the underdog in this one.
Couple of coaches that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago here on the show with you. That's Bill Belichick and Scott Frost. They're going to clash heads this Saturday at 3:30. Carolina's bounced back, of course, with 2 easy wins over Charlotte and Richmond after that big loss to TCU in the opener. UCF took care of business against North Carolina A&T, but they struggled in that first week. So, Phil, I don't know really where to lean with this one. I mean, it feels like these are two teams that are still trying to figure themselves out, and I don't know that we know much about either team.
Yeah, they're two teams that probably the two teams that hit the transfer portal the hardest this year, along with like Oklahoma State and West Virginia. They're practically new squads. I know when I talked to Scott Frost going over the squad with them, a good amount of the players hadn't even been in yet that he was projecting as the starters. Now, they look great. As you mentioned, North Carolina A&T is actually one of the worst teams in the FCS. They did get past Jacksonville State by 7. North Carolina looked really bad against TCU after that opening drive, but have rebounded, gotten better each week. I like Gio Lopez. I really like Damon June at running back. He's emerged. He didn't even carry the ball against TCU, started getting some action against Charlotte in the second half. He's got 200 yards. He's averaging 8.7 yards per carry. Bottom line here, guys, I mean, you got two teams with a whole bunch of new players. Am I going to take Bill Belichick or Scott Frost? I'm going to go with Bill Belichick in this one, and I'm going to say North Carolina.
I like it.
Phil, I think this battle in Waco might be the best under-the-radar game in the country. We're so close to this being a battle of ranked teams. Arizona State dropped that game to Mississippi State. Of course, Baylor dropped the opener to Auburn. Arizona State seems to be coming around. Of course, Scattaboo was the big loss, but Relief Brown is playing good football. If he can fill that void on any level, they're going to be dangerous once again. But Baylor, they seem to be humming. I mean, they picked up where they kind of left off last year. This is a very interesting matchup with the Bears favored by 2 or 3 points in Waco. What do you see playing out in this one?
Yeah, and I think both teams, their losses both were non-conference. These two are still legitimate Big 12 title contenders, and had Baylor gotten past Auburn in the opener and Arizona State gotten past Mississippi State, this would be one of the marquee games of the week because you'd be, two high-ranked teams. I love Baylor's offense this year. Sawyer Robertson hitting 62% with a 10-2 ratio. Bryson Washington, I'm still waiting for somebody to emerge along with Washington. Remember, they lost Dawson Pendergrass in the offseason. I'd like to see another running back emerge to give him a little bit of a breather during the games, but dangerous receiving core, potent offense. Underwhelmed with Dave Aranda's defense so far. Against Auburn and SMU, both teams put up over 400 yards. I think Arizona State's got the defensive edge here. But Sam Leavitt, without Scadaboo in the backfield, we're talking about 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 58%. Not quite the same quarterback he was last year, at least at this point. So I think it's going to be a really good game. I think the two teams pretty equal. Offensive edge goes to Baylor. Defensive edge to Arizona State. Deciding factor, I'm going to give it to home field edge. Let's take Baylor to win this one.
BYU and ECU, and the Pirates, they've been a little impressive here, at least offensively in these first couple of games. Coastal Carolina, Campbell, they hung with NC State in the opener. This is a massive game, I think, for BYU. They don't want to trip up, obviously, here on the road, but this is Bear Bachmeier's first road opportunity. What do you expect to happen here in Greenville?
Yeah, that's probably my biggest concern with BYU this week is a young quarterback first road start. As we've seen numerous times this season, young quarterbacks in their first road start have struggled. Now, BYU's defense has been amazing, but granted, they played Portland State and then Stanford with Ben Gulbranson at quarterback. Gulbranson is sort of a below-average QB, but they're giving up 106 yards per game total offense. They'll give up a few more here against the East Carolina team, putting up nearly 500 yards per game. I like the way Caden Hauser throwing the football. I do think ECU's a good team. BYU's the better team. I think they go on the road and get the win. As I said, my main concern is how's Bear Bachmeier going to play in this one in his first road start.
Oh, you got Colorado trying to work some things out before they go on a stretch of Big 12 games against a Wyoming team that is struggling to move the football offensively. Do you think that the Cowboys can score enough in Boulder to make this interesting?
Yeah, Caden Anderson so far this year has been good, not great. He's only hitting about 59% with a 3-2 ratio. I like how they hung with Utah last week. Utah, of course, had a big game against Texas Tech coming up on deck. But their score came late in the game when they were down big, so I didn't really see it. But Utah, of course, has an outstanding defense as always. The opener against Akron was interesting. It was only 3-0 in the fourth quarter. Akron got intercepted in the end zone, and then Wyoming got 2 big pass plays. Chris Dorr is by far their top receiver this year, and Dorr had a couple of big receptions on the final drive to get him to 10 points against Akron. So I think it's going to be tough because Colorado has a good defense. They haven't quite shown it this year, but I remember last year's defense, and they have played Georgia Tech and Houston, 2 really dangerous teams, and a Delaware team that's actually Delaware's offense really impressed me against last week in their game. So I think when you look at this one, Colorado at home should be able to get enough to get the cover, and I think you're going to see a much better Colorado team than the one you saw against Houston last week.
Phil, you mentioned it here just a second ago, Texas Tech and Utah. This is a huge game, and who knows, maybe this is 2 teams that reconvene in Dallas later on in the season. This is really a big measuring stick game, I think, too, for Texas Tech because they've kind of coasted through these first few weeks. Everyone's kind of getting on the Texas Tech bandwagon here, but this is a real test, at least for me, to see how true Texas Tech is this season. What do you think about this game between the Red Raiders and the Utes?
Yeah, it's actually a huge test for Texas Tech, and really we're going to find out whether Texas Tech is the prime contender everybody says they are, and there's no doubt they're the best team money can buy in the Big 12 this year, or whether or not the schedule is going to trip them up. And I mentioned that because of this. First of all, this is their first trip to Utah. I know they haven't been there in the last 28 years, which I track on my website. So let's face it, nobody at Texas Tech knows what it's like to travel to Utah. And that's, I think, a big advantage because Utah's got one of the best home sites out there. You get the student section, Muss. They are loud the entire game, and it is quite an environment. But you look at Texas Tech under McGuire, and they are 18-5 straight up at home. That's outstanding. They're just 6-10 on the road, and this year they have to play Utah, Houston, Arizona State, Kansas State, all on the road this year. It's a brutal schedule, and this is one of those tough games. Meanwhile, you take a look at Utah. They are 32-3 straight up at home from 2018 to 23. Now, last year, a lot of things went wrong for them, but with Utah, Last year they had the great defense, as always, and they've got a great defense this year. They're holding opponents 165 yards per game below their average. But this year, unlike last year, they're not down to a fifth-string quarterback at the end of the year. They're not wondering who their starting quarterback is going to be on a weekly basis. It's Devin Dampier, and he looks really good. It's the best offensive line Whittingham has had. You've got the home field edge. I think Utah's a better team, and they're at home. And the price is cheap. They're only a 3-point favorite here. I like Utah in this one.
Yeah, Phil, I think you can write off last year as an aberration with what was going on in that quarterback room with the Utes, right? But
Yeah.
so now the main event, the reason everybody's here. Last week you had to go against West Virginia. You had plenty of reason to do so. This week you got West Virginia on the road at Kansas with the Jayhawks laying a very curiously large line. Depending on where you look, this line is anywhere from 12, 13, or even up to 14, 13 and a half. Interesting. Yeah, West Virginia, I guess Vegas is looking at as potential hangover after a rivalry victory. Meanwhile, Kansas is sitting there. They've been on a bye, so the Big 12 did us no favors with the scheduling. So they had time to recover from their loss in the rivalry to Missouri. What a strange game that was before Missouri took over. What do you see playing out with the Mountaineers' trip to Lawrence this week?
Yeah, and this one, I think it's purely the situation is probably the worst situation that's going to happen in the Big 12 this year. As you mentioned, West Virginia, emotional home win, backyard brawl against Pitt, celebrate well after the game is over. Great, great win. Now have to go on the road and travel. Meanwhile, Kansas is at home, and I always love this situation, at home, off a bye, off a loss. So they've been stewing in a loss for 2 weeks. They're at home, off a bye, fresh, rested. It's a massive scheduling advantage. Now, I'll say this. I liked Pitt to beat West Virginia last week. They were up by 10. West Virginia got Pitt back for last year when West Virginia led that thing by 10 and then blew it late and lost by 4. So that was good to see. I like how Marchiol played at the end and at the start of the game. And so I think West Virginia is played beyond my expectations so far this year. But I also really like this Kansas team. And Jalen Daniels looks like the Jalen Daniels of a few years back. I remember last year, at the start of the year, he had a lot of interceptions. In fact, on the season, he had a 14-12 ratio. This year, he's got 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's also a dangerous runner. That Missouri game, they actually led Missouri on the road in the fourth quarter with like 5 minutes to go. You look at that final score, lost by 11. That was Missouri running out the clock, getting a 66-yard touchdown run for the cover. Prior to that, they had blown out Fresno and Wagner. And granted, Fresno and Wagner are not West Virginia. But I just think it's the best situation of any team's going to have in the Big 12 this year. And Kansas is a pretty talented team with Jalen Daniels. So I'm going to go with Kansas to get the win. But this West Virginia team has surprised me so far.
Yeah, Phil, and going back to the backyard brawl, I'm very curious to get your thoughts on this because obviously it took West Virginia a long time in that game to kind of find some answers offensively. But once they did, it looked like they could be able to carry that forward. Maybe it may not happen this week, but at least they have some guys there to go to now with Ty Edwards. Nico Marchiol showed what he can do as the guy now. From what they did in the backyard brawl, does that change your expectations for this team much at all? And what are your thoughts on that game and how it changes maybe the outlook on this group?
Yeah, I think the way the team responded at the end, I think, was huge. And I think, Rich Rod pointed it out in the post game when he said that this is a team that's going to fight you to the very end. And we learned that about West Virginia this past week. Now I think what that does is any game that they're down in the third quarter, they're like, hey, remember the Pitt game? We came back and won it. I think it gives them a belief factor here. So I think that win was going to be huge for the rest of the year in the third and the fourth quarter in games, maybe that they're trailing. The schedule's brutal. But yeah. I think the fact that they got that big win over Pitt with the comeback is going to keep them alive late in games and give this team belief.
Well, Phil, we greatly appreciate it, and we always look forward to talking to you each and every week here on the show. And again, if you haven't yet, go check out Phil's stuff on his website. He's got a bunch of stuff going on there, and we'll talk to you again next week, pal.
Sounds good. A lot of fun talking football with you guys, as always.
Appreciate it, Phil.
You betcha. Hang tight. On the other side, we will get into our picks for this week's West Virginia-Kansas matchup.
When the sun's just rising and the work won't wait, you need the equipment that works just as hard as you do. Johnson Equipment delivers power, performance, and reliability day in, day out. Whether you're plowing fields, hauling loads, or planting the future, our tractors are built to take it and then some. Strong, reliable, ready. 0% financing available for up to 84 months on select models.
Johnson Equipment, farming made easy.
Get all your Mountaineer gear in WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. They're the locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their 2 locations at downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com.
When shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter code INTHEGUN20 at checkout for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
And back here in the gun, Schuyler Callihan, Jed Drenning, as always, on Phil Steele Friday. We close out the show with our picks for the week, our ITG sports book that Jed has crafted in his house somewhere, and maybe he's got some booths where you can make some wagers, but maybe that'll come a few years down the road. So, all right, Jed, obviously, as you mentioned in the opening there, we didn't do too hot last week, so hopefully you provided some layups for us this week.
I don't know if they're layups, but it wouldn't take much to do better than we did a week ago, would it? So we're on the road. We're at Kansas, coming off of an effort at home where we found ourselves a week ago at this time saying, all right, who's going to be the leading rusher? Who's going to carry the load? Who's going to emerge? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? We missed the mark with our picks last week, wondering.
Oh, yeah.
So what ends up happening is Ty Edwards comes off the bench, 25 carries, 140 plus. He was the element of stability and physicality that this run game needed in the absence of Jaheim White. Do we build on that? Okay, we're going to see, not just with him, but with others. Who else is going to pitch in? But here's the first question. A week ago, I just gave you the stat line. Ty Edwards, 25 carries, 141. The question number one. Ty Edwards, over under rush attempts versus Kansas, 20.5.
20 and a half. I will go with the over. I think he's going to become the bell cow for this team, and I think offensively they know they're still going to have to run the football first to be successful, even though they showed that they can throw it in the backyard brawl. But I think what you'll see with Edwards is he's going to be very similar to what Rich had last year with Trey Stewart, and that he just, once he became the guy, he was the workhorse. And I think that's kind of what we're going to see here with Ty Edwards. So I think over 20 and a half, and I think that'll be probably the case for much of the season as long as he's healthy.
Okay, let's make it interesting. I'll go under. Let's see if Clay gets a couple carries. Sincere Bowers is almost ready to get to the point where he can contribute. I think, I feel, I hope. So we diverge on question number one and make it interesting. Question number two. We've talked a lot about this situation with Kansas's rebuilt offensive line. We've also talked a lot about Jamori Robinson poised to make his debut as a Mountaineer. You have a left tackle in Kansas in Calvin Clements, who has struggled so mightily. That will be one of the factors in this Kansas offensive line. Question number two is pretty simple. Will Jamori Robinson have a sack against Kansas?
Yes, he will. And I wouldn't be shocked if he gets there twice, or maybe he gets 1.5. I think we spend so much time in talking about guys that are coming either off of injury or in this situation with the eligibility thing. We always talk about a pitch count, right? And I think there is a pitch count. I would not be surprised if he's limited to X amount of snaps. But I think when we talk about things like that, it's always less. What we perceive is always less than what the coaches have for him, or he may end up playing more than we expect. So I think he's going to get there. And I don't know that it's going to take 20 or 30 snaps, but I think he'll get there and maybe play a little bit more than we all believe. So, yeah, Jamori Robinson gets it. And I'll even go with this statement for a little extra couple bonus points. First drive that he plays gets the sack.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like it. Okay, I'll be the devil's advocate. Uh, you have a scenario where Kansas has struggled up front quite a bit to protect the passer. He's been pressured a lot. Now, we talk about this on the show all the time. What's a pressure? A pressure, when you look at the metrics, can be either a sack, a hurry, or a quarterback hit. One of those remember me shots, we call them. Here's the thing. Jalen Daniels has been pressured a lot, but he's only been sacked 3 times. So I'm going to say Jamori Robinson will pressure him, but won't sack him. It's tough to get to him because of the quick game, and they've utilized so much. We talked in the preview. More than half his passes are out in under 2.5 seconds. 52% of the time, he's getting it out in 2.5 seconds. It's tough to get home to impact the play. Now, you can get your hands up, you can bat the ball, you can deflect it, you can get it in the air, you can still get a shot on him, you can make him hurry. So that's the devil's advocate position on that. I'm going to say because of that, I do think we'll pressure him. And I talked about the fact it's not just Missouri getting pressures on him. Missouri had 18 pressures on Jalen Daniels.
Getting him to the
Fresno
ground.
had 10. Fresno had 10 pressures. So it's tough to sack him, but it's not as tough to pressure him and impact the play in other ways. So, okay, I'll be devil's advocate. I'll go with no sack for Jamori, but yeah, I do think he gets some pressures.
Well, when
So
West
we
Virginia's up,
diverged twice.
when West Virginia's up 22 in the fourth quarter, and they have to step back and sling that thing around, maybe he'll get to pin his ears back and get to him. So,
Yeah, that might be the case. Okay, now the third question. We'll wrap it up with this. This is something I haven't heard people talk about this week. West Virginia's defense. Do you know how many points we've allowed in the first quarter?
have to be 0, right? Or 3?
Three.
3, yeah. Ohio.
We've allowed 3 points in the first quarter defensively through 3 games. That's really impressive. And that's deferring, Schuyler.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's them getting the extra possession to start the game. It's not like we're gobbling it up.
In all 3 games, right?
At least twice, I think maybe all 3. So that's impressive. Now, Kansas's offense, they're number 2 in the country in scoring in the first quarter. 3 games, 14 points, 14 points. Against Missouri, 21 points. The crazy nature of that game. So 14, 14, 21 in 3 games for the Kansas offense against the West Virginia defense that has allowed just 3. So question number 3. Will the Kansas offense, will Kansas for that matter, reach the end zone in the first quarter? Scoring will be too easy. Will they reach the end zone in the first quarter?
No. I don't think they do, Jed. And I think it's because, as you mentioned in the preview, they like to take their sweet old time offensively. So there's a chance, depending on how those drives go for really both teams, they may only touch it twice in the first quarter. It depends also who gets the ball. You know, if they kick off first, maybe they only get 1.5 series, depending on how those things go. And in that game against Missouri, I believe 7 of those 21 came on a scoop and score. So really 14, 14, 14. But still, yes, they can put it up. I just don't – I think Zach Alley has got this thing down to a T right now. He feels really good. He's in his zone. They're only going to get better, playing, but he's also only going to get better as a play caller. So I'm going to go with no, they don't get in the end zone, and it's much like we've seen the first 3 weeks where it's going to be low scoring the first half.
Okay, you're forcing me into the devil's advocate position again. I'll take the devil's advocate position. All right, they obviously script well to start the game. That's point number 1. That staff works well together in putting a plan together to roll it out to start a game. That's what that demonstrates through 3 games to me. But in addition to that, they're sour. They lost the rivalry game 2 weeks ago. As Phil said, they've been stewing for a couple weeks. It's the Big 12 opener in this renovated facility. It's going to be a highly energized crowd. So they're going to come out with a veteran quarterback following a polished up script behind a very excited crowd. I do think they find a way to reach the end zone in the first quarter. Then that's not to say Zach Elling won't develop some answers in response to that. But yeah, to diverge, let's go 3 for 3 in disagreement this week. Make it fun.
Got to get some
I'll
separation.
say yes, they will before we settle in. So there we go. That's West Virginia will allow its first quarter touchdown of the season to make it interesting. There we go. So how's that? We're 3 for 3 in disagreement.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some separation this week. I got to update the standings. I was keeping track there for a while. I think I took last week off for whatever reason, but we'll get it back. We'll figure out where we are. And again, West Virginia kicking off at 6 p.m. on FS1 against Kansas, the Big 12 opener. A chance to move to 3-1, 1-0 in Big 12 play. You wipe the slate clean. Doesn't matter what happened in non-conference play. As great as the Backyard Brawl victory was, the season truly starts now, and you've got a chance to start things off on the right foot. So we'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for us today on ITG. Make sure you go back and watch the Kansas preview with Jed, Wes, and O. We've also got barbecue at the beer truck as well. So you want to take out what do we have this week on BBQ? I didn't even check it out yet.
Loaded baked beans, which again, when I edit these things, when I produce these things, I get hungry every time. And he has everything but the kitchen sink, as he says in there. It really is. It's loaded baked beans, and he smokes them. I'm getting hungry thinking about it again.
Yeah,
even for breakfast.
He is a wizard in the kitchen, man. And you're right. Every time I've watched it, it amazes me how much he knows about what he's doing in the kitchen. It's crazy. So definitely check it out. Pick up some tips and maybe make some tailgating food that Owen's cooking up for you each and every single week as well. So as always, be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WV football podcast. Thank you for watching. Take care, everybody. For Jed Drenning, I'm Schuyler Callihan. You've been In the Gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.